Hey y'all, it's Kim. So this is the non-prosecution agreement that Jeffrey Epstein signed and basically got away with all of his crimes. Isn't that crazy? So in regard to investigation of Jeffrey Epstein, the non-prosecution agreement, it appearing that the City of Palm Beach Police Department and the State Attorney's Office for the 15th Judicial Circuit in or for Palm Beach County, hereinafter the State Attorney's Office, have conducted an investigation into the conduct of Jeffrey Epstein, hereinafter Epstein. It appearing that the State Attorney's Office has charged Epstein by indictment with solicitation of prostitution, one count, in violation of Florida statutes, section 796.07. It appearing that the United States Attorney's Office and the Federal Bureau of Investigation have conducted their own investigation into Epstein's background and any offenses that may have been committed by Epstein against the United States from in or around 2001 through in or around September 2007, including knowingly and willfully conspiring with others, known and unknown, to commit an offense against the United States. That is, to use a facility or means of interstate or foreign commerce to knowingly persuade, induce, or entice minor females to engage in prostitution in violation of Title 18 United States Code, Section 2422B, all in violation of Title 18 United States Code, Section 371. Knowingly and willfully conspiring with others, known and unknown, to travel in interstate commerce for the purpose of engaging in illicit sexual conduct as defined in 18 U.S.C. subsection 2423F with minor females in violation of Title 18 United States Code, Section 2423B, all in violation of Title 18 United States Code Section 2423E, using a facility or means of interstate or foreign commerce to knowingly persuade, induce, or entice minor females to engage in prostitution in violation of Title 18 United States Code Sections 2422B and 2. Traveling in interstate commerce for the purpose of engaging in illicit sexual conduct as defined in 18 U.S.C. subsection 2423F with minor females in violation of Title 18 United States Code Section 2423B and knowingly in and affecting interstate and foreign commerce, recruiting, enticing, and obtaining by any means a person knowing that the person had not attained the age of 18 years, the age of 18 years, and would be caused to engage in a commercial sex act as defined in 18 U.S.C. subsection 1591C1 in violation of Title 18 United States Code sections 1591A, 1, and 2. And it appearing that Epstein seeks to resolve globally his state and federal criminal liability, and Epstein understands and acknowledges that in exchange for the benefits provided by this agreement, he agrees to comply with its terms, including undertaking certain actions with the state attorney's office. It appearing after an investigation of the offenses and Epstein's background by both state and federal law enforcement agencies, and after due consultation with the state attorney's office, that the interests of the United States, the state of Florida, and the defendant would be served by the following procedure. Therefore, on the authority of R. Alexander Acosta, United States Attorney for the Southern District of Florida, prosecution in this district for these offenses shall be deferred in favor of prosecution by the state of Florida, provided that Epstein abides by the following conditions and the requirements of this agreement set forth below. If the United States Attorney should determine, based on reliable evidence, that during the period of the agreement, Epstein willfully violated any of the conditions of this agreement, then the United States Attorney may, within 90 days following the expiration of the term of home confinement discussed below, provide Epstein with timely notice specifying the conditions of the agreement that he has violated, and shall initiate its prosecution of any offense within 60 days of giving notice of the violation. Any notice provided to Epstein pursuant to this paragraph shall be provided within 60 days of the United States learning of facts which may provide a basis for a determination of a breach of the agreement. After timely fulfilling all the terms and conditions of the agreement, no prosecution for the offenses set out on pages 1 and 2 of this agreement, nor any other offenses that have been the subject of the joint investigation by the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the United States Attorney's Office, nor any offenses that arose from the federal grand jury investigation will be instituted in this district, and the charges against Epstein, if any, will be dismissed. A sweetheart deal. Okay. Terms of the agreement. Epstein shall plead guilty, not solo contendere, or contender, however they say that, to the indictment that's currently pending against him in the 15th Judicial Circuit and in Fort Palm Beach County. There's a case number charging one count of solicitation of prostitution, violation of Florida statute, subsection 796.07. In addition, Epstein shall plead guilty to an information filed by the state attorney's office charging Epstein with an offense that requires him to register as a sex offender. That is the solicitation of minors to engage in prostitution in violation of Florida statute section 796.03. Epstein shall make a binding recommendation that the court impose a 30-month sentence to be divided as follows. Epstein shall be sentenced to consecutive terms of 12 months and 6 months in county jail for all charges without any opportunity for withholding adjudication or sentencing, and without probation or community control in lieu of imprisonment. And Epstein shall be sentenced to a term of 12 months of community control consecutive to his 2 terms in county jail as described in term 2A supra, whatever. This agreement is contingent upon a judge of the 15th Judicial Circuit accepting and executing the sentence agreed upon between the state attorney's office and Epstein, the details of which are set forth in this agreement. The terms contained in paragraphs 1 and 2 supra do not foreclose Epstein and the state attorney's office from agreeing to recommend any additional charges or any additional terms of probation and or incarceration. Epstein shall waive all challenges to the information filed by the state attorney's office and shall waive the right to appeal his conviction and sentence, except a sentence that exceeds what is set forth in paragraph 2 supra. Epstein shall provide to the U.S. Attorney's Office copies of all proposed agreements with the state attorney's office prior to entering into those agreements. The United States shall provide Epstein's attorneys with a list of individuals whom it has identified as victims as defined in 18 U.S.C. subsection 2255 after Epstein has signed this agreement and been sentenced. Upon the execution of this agreement, the United States, in consultation with and subject to the good faith approval of Epstein's counsel, shall select an attorney representative for these persons, who shall be paid for by Epstein. Epstein's counsel may contact the identified individuals through that representative. If any of the individuals referred to in paragraph 7 of supra elects to file suit pursuant to 18 U.S.C. subsection 2255, Epstein will not contest the jurisdiction of the United States District Court for the Southern District of Florida over his person and or the subject matter, and Epstein waives his right to contest liability and also waives his right to contest damages up to an amount as agreed to between the identified individual and Epstein, so long as the identified individual elects to proceed exclusively under 18 U.S.C. subsection 2255 and agrees to waive any other claims for damages, whether pursuant to state, federal, or common law. Notwithstanding this waiver, As to those individuals whose names appear on the list provided by the United States, Epstein's signature on this agreement, his waivers and failures to contest liability and such damages in any suit are not to be construed as admission of any criminal or civil liability. Epstein's signature on this agreement also is not to be construed as an admission of civil or criminal liability or waiver of any jurisdictional or other defense as to any person whose name does not appear on the list provided by the United States, except as to those individuals who elect to proceed exclusively under 18 U.S.C. subsection 2255 as set forth in paragraph 8 supra. Neither Epstein's signature on this agreement, nor its terms, nor any resulting waivers or settlements by Epstein are to be construed as admissions or evidence of civil or criminal liability or a waiver of any jurisdictional or other defense as to any person, whether or not her name appears on the list provided by the United States. Epstein shall use his best efforts to enter his plea and be sentenced not later than October 26, 2007. The United States has no objection to Epstein's self-reporting to begin serving his sentence not later than January 4, 2008. Epstein agrees that he will not be afforded any benefits with respect to gain time other than the rights, opportunities, and benefits as any other inmate, including but not limited to eligibility for gain time credit based on standard rules and regulations that apply to the state of Florida. At the United States' request, Epstein agrees to provide an accounting of the gain time he earned during his period of incarceration. The parties anticipate that this agreement will not be made part of any public record if the United States receives the Freedom of Information Act request or any compulsory process commanding the disclosure of the agreement. He will provide notice to Epstein before making that disclosure. Epstein understands that the United States attorney has no authority to require the state attorney's office to abide by any terms of this agreement. Epstein understands that it is his obligation to undertake discussions with the state attorney's office and to use his best efforts to ensure compliance with these procedures, which compliance will be necessary to satisfy the United States interest. Epstein also understands that it is his obligation to use his best efforts to convince the judge of the 15th Judicial Circuit to contest Epstein's binding recommendation regarding the sentence to be imposed, and understands that the failure to do so will be a breach of the agreement. In consideration of Epstein's agreement to plead guilty and to provide compensation in the manner described above, if Epstein successfully fulfills all of the terms and conditions of this agreement, the United States also agrees that will not institute any criminal charges against any potential co-conspirators of Epstein, including but not limited to Sarah Kellen, Adriana Ross, Leslie Groff, or Nadia Marcinkova. Further, upon execution of this agreement and a plea agreement with the state attorney's office, the federal grand jury investigation will be suspended, and all pending federal grand jury subpoenas will be held in abeyance unless and until the defendant violates any term of this agreement. The defendant likewise agrees to withdraw his pending motion to intervene and to quash certain grand jury subpoenas. Both parties agreed to maintain their evidence, specifically evidence requested by or directly related to the grand jury subpoenas that have been issued, and including certain computer equipment inviolate until all of the terms of this agreement have been satisfied. Upon the successful completion of the terms of this agreement, all outstanding grand jury subpoenas will be deemed withdrawn. By signing this agreement, Epstein asserts and certifies that each of these terms is material to this agreement and is supported by independent consideration, and that a breach of any one of these conditions allows the United States to elect to terminate the agreement and to investigate and prosecute Epstein and any other individual or entity for any and all federal offenses. By signing this agreement, Epstein asserts and certifies that he's aware of the fact that the Sixth Amendment to the Constitution of the United States provides that in all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial. Epstein further is aware that Rule 48B of the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure provides that the court may dismiss an indictment, information, or complaint for unnecessary delay in presenting a charge to the grand jury, an information, or in bringing a defendant to trial. Epstein hereby requests the United States Attorney for the Southern District of Florida defer such prosecution. Epstein agrees and consents that any delay from the date of this agreement to the date of initiation of prosecution, as provided for in the terms expressed herein, shall be deemed to be a necessary delay at his own request, and he hereby waives any defense to such prosecution on the ground that such delay operated to deny him rights under Rule 48B of the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure and the Sixth Amendment to the Constitution of the United States to a speedy trial, or to bar the prosecution by reason of the running of the statute of limitations for a period of months equal to the period between the signing of this agreement and the breach of this agreement as to those offenses that were the subject of the grand jury's investigation. Epstein further asserts and certifies that he understands that the Fifth Amendment and Rule 7A of the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure provide that all felonies must be charged in an indictment presented to a grand jury. Epstein hereby agrees and consents that if a prosecution against him is instituted for any offense that was the subject of the grand jury's investigation, it may be by way of an information signed and filed by the United States Attorney, and hereby waives his right to be indicted by a grand jury as to any such offense. And then, so that was Alexander Acosta. This Maria Villafana, she was assistant U.S. attorney. There's Epstein, Gerald Lefcourt, Esquire, counsel to Jeffrey Epstein, and Lily Ann Sanchez, Esquire, attorney for Jeffrey Epstein. Let's see. It says, by signing this agreement, Epstein asserts and certifies that the above has been read and explained to him. Epstein hereby states that he understands the conditions of this non-prosecution agreement and agrees to comply with them. And there's Gerald Lefcourt, Esquire. I guess they all had to sign at different times. So, okay. So, they're just, it's basically just a lawyer signing. Let's see. So, addendum to the non-prosecution agreement, it appearing that the parties seek to clarify certain previous or provisions of page 4, paragraph 7 of the non-prosecution agreement, herein after paragraph 7. That agreement is modified as follows. The United States has, or 7A, so the United States has the right to assign to an independent third party the responsibility for consulting with and subject to the good faith approval of Epstein's counsel, selecting the attorney representative for the individuals identified under the agreement. If the United States elects to assign this responsibility to an independent third party, both the United States and Epstein retain the right to make good faith objections to the attorney representatives suggested by the independent third party prior to the final designation of the attorney representative. The 7B, the parties will jointly prepare a short written submission to the independent third party regarding the role of the attorney representative and regarding Epstein's agreement to pay such attorney representative his or her regular customary hourly rate for representing such victims subject to the provisions of paragraph C, infra, whatever that is. And 7C, pursuant to additional paragraph 7A, Epstein has agreed to pay the fees of the attorney representative selected by the independent third party This provision, however, shall not obligate Epstein to pay the fees and costs of contested litigation filed against him. Thus, if after consideration of potential settlements, an attorney representative elects to file a contested lawsuit pursuant to 18 U.S.C. Section 2255 or elects to pursue any other contested remedy, the paragraph 7 obligation of the agreement to pay the cost of the attorney representative as opposed to any statutory or other obligations to pay reasonable attorney's fees and costs, such as those contained in Section 2255, to bear the cost of the attorney representative shall cease. So it's kind of a weird agreement when you listen or actually listen to of her. What they did is that he had to basically pay for the girl's attorney's fees so they could settle, I guess, like out of court. I don't know. But they decided to go to trial, then it's one of those deals where, yeah, he'd be paying more money, I guess. Okay, and then we basically got all the signatures on this. Everybody pretty much agreeing to it. The only one we're missing is this Via Fauna lady, but I guess maybe she was the last one to sign it. And then that's pretty much it. I, Jeffrey E. Epstein, do hereby reaffirm the non-prosecution agreement and addendum to name dated October 30th, 2007. And that's the end of that. So anyway, let me get this loaded up and I'll see what else I can find. Anyway, talk to y'all later. Bye.